joining us today for MasterCoaches Wednesday Weekly Buzz and our after show Buzz Reaction. I'm Ruth Nelson, joined by Hall of Famers Mick Haley, Bob Bertucci, and Brian Gimolero, bringing you the most current issues and trends in volleyball. Our weekly news show has leaders in our sport provide their perspective on the questions that are asked, along with the discussion on topics that are current and ones that are affecting all of us. Our news flash. Don't forget to nominate your 2021 Ultra Ankle JVA Boys Watch List by Friday, March 12th, and go to jvavolleyball.org for updates on their upcoming mental performance series. We are heading into week 3 after 12 matches of Athletes Unlimited Women's Professional Volleyball, which had their opening ceremonies, 3 rounds of draft picks, and only 3 weeks left in this 5-week league, played in Fair Park Coliseum in Dallas, Texas. 7 matches on CBS Sports News, 15 matches on Fox FSI or FS2, and in Spanish on Fox Deportes. 8 matches on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, Daily Motion, and or Twitch. Check their weekly schedule at www.auprosports.com. That's prosports.com. Want to make a difference? Please remember to renew your AVCA membership. This one organization represents all coaches at all levels when lobbying for the changes that are needed in our sport. You can make a difference by registering at avca.org. Today, our guests will be bringing us the most up-to-date information as 2 of the 4 facilitators who are assisting in this Athletes Unlimited Women's Professional League. So let's head over to Austin, Texas with former Olympic coach Mick Haley, who will introduce our guests today.
Thank you, Ruth. We finally thawed out down here and we're ready to go again. We have 2 exceptional guests today that are really exciting, at least for us, and we're anxious to get them on. Our first is Tama Marashiro, who played at the University of Washington. I had the opportunity to watch her up close and in action, and she was an unbelievably great player, 2-time National Defensive Player of the Year. She played for USA from 2001 to 2012 and was in the Olympics in 2012 for the United States, and has also won numerous international honors. She's been an assistant coach at Arizona State and has been a member of the USA national team staff. And now she's one of 4 facilitators with the new Athletes Unlimited Professional League here in Dallas. Along with Tama is Taiba Hanif Park. Really got to see her play an awful lot also because she played for Brian Gimolero at Long Beach State, was a standout for Brian there, a 3-time USA Olympian in 2004, 2008, 2012. And both athletes are now in roles classified as facilitators in the new Athletes Unlimited Pro League stationed in Dallas, Texas. Welcome to both of you, and I'm going to jump right into this real fast. I've got 2 questions, and I'm going to let you divvy the questions up. So since you're both facilitators, I'll let you figure out who answers the first one and who answers the second one. But here are the questions. Briefly explain the new league for all of our listeners who are not quite sure what's going on, with just an overview of the league, what as you see it. And secondly, and I don't know who wants to handle this one, but define your role as a facilitator and what that really is for the league. So flip a coin, ladies.
I think Tama said she'll talk about our role. So I guess that means I'm talking about the league. And so Athletes Unlimited has brought on this new concept where they're trying to take management and upper management, middle management out of the equation and really just have athletes run the league. And so they tried it with softball. It was really successful. And so they wanted to bring more exposure to women's volleyball, just bring more television, just bring it international. Like you said, it is shown in a bunch of countries in different languages. And so what they are doing, they brought in 44 of the top athletes, and essentially they let them kind of govern everything. They get to control practice times, lifting. They got to pick out the colors of the uniforms, whether they all wear one thing. I mean, they pretty much get to decide everything. And so I think it's really empowering for the sport. I think as all of you are master coaches, and we've got some genius men, male coaches here, but I think that we don't see enough women in the sport as well. And so I think this creates an environment where if you top the leaderboard, you get to become the captain for that week. And every Tuesday, there's a new draft. So you get to pick your team for the week. And so it gives them that ability to become an athlete / coach and just decide, how much of practice planning do I want? How much of the substitutions do I want to be a part of? How much, challenges at the net can they really decide? And it gives them a foot in the coaching world already to see if they love it. And so I think it's a great environment. It's exciting. We're all learning as we go.
That's pretty good, Taivo. Tama, you want to go for it?
I will. I think first, let's just start with training. So a little bit of what Ty talked about. I've only been coaching for a couple of years, but a pretty normal, routine would be the coaches to identify, like, what are we actually going to work on? What are we going to spend time getting better at, and prioritizing. But the difference is I met some of these girls like however many weeks ago. And so I've seen some of them play. I actually knew a bunch of them from before, but it could be something as simple as I haven't seen them play in like 2 years. And so that part of it is a little different because knowing like how the game works and what's important, you're trying to decipher, okay, this week we have 3 days of training. And like Ty was sharing with our group earlier, this first day is just to like work with your team, foam roll, get some quick workouts in, a little serve and pass, some setter connection, and a little bit of rest. And then we might train for 2 more days, but you're just taking into consideration things are a little different than a normal season. And so, yes, you have professionals, but you have some players that are getting after it for the first time in a couple months. And so training, that part of it is always interesting, working with the captain and saying, hey, first, what do you want to do? And I think that's a big thing that I've learned over the past couple of weeks is like, you have to listen first and then offer your advice or your experience or whatever knowledge that you want to offer them, and they can take it or leave it. And some will say, I really want to do this drill. And some will say, hey, can you just plan the hour? And so being able to just be flexible in that. And, you find little opportunities where you have to speak up more. And then you find some opportunities where you're like, okay, like I'm going to let her run with it and let's see what happens. But I think, at least for us, we're just trying to embrace it and be like just really good for them, whatever they need. In the matches, anyone has watched has probably noticed that we are like off the court. I think that's the first thing, like just visually, it's a little different. We are off the court. I mean, Ty and I might walk up to like give a blocking call or something, but we're just very much out of the picture, which is interesting, right? And we're coaching with a mask on, and the timeouts they might be tactical. They usually aren't, because these girls, they know how to play the game. And so kind of like seeing what's going on in live time and giving one little nugget that could help them, I think is like where I see at least my role is. I don't know about you, Ty, but that's been like a learning process. And you guys know how that experience can be, right? Like you train all year for like packed 10 or 12 games, and so yeah, I think just helping the captain's guide and if there's any adjustments, like offer some pretty good objective advice and see how the matches are going. And then I think just day to day is being there for them and being able to connect with the athletes has been really fun for me. Like I said, I've known a bunch of them from before, but being in this environment, seeing them every day, getting to work with, a selected few for that week and then possibly a different group it's just been fun, I think, for me to be able to just be around the athletes. So
good. So they probably say, hey, facilitator, huh?
It's funny, like sometimes we're referred to as facilitators, and like I'll get a text like, "Oh, I didn't know you're a facilitator," and I'm like, "Well," and then you'll be called a coach and whatever. So anyway,
You guys are
Okay.
going to become the master facilitators, not the
Yeah.
master coaches.
Right, that's exactly right.
Bob, what do you got? What do you got for these two?
Well, this is really interesting. I mean, I've coached through 6 decades of Division I women's volleyball, and this is so foreign to me. I mean, I guess my reason for saying that is that, you know, things have changed quite a bit from 6 decades ago to where they are now. But this must be decade number 7, because facilitating sounds like you are really truly a facilitator, not so much what we would think of as a coach. How did these facilitators, how did you guys, Tama, get selected?
Well, I think first, just thinking back, probably around a year or a little more, USA Volleyball was just approached, you know, to help out and give some advice, like how could we run this league? What's important? Like, what have we learned from the girls that have played overseas over all these years? What will it take to like survive, basically, you know, because it's been tried, professional league has been attempted, but so I think for me, it was just USA Volleyball connection, and it worked out. You know, originally it's supposed to have been after the Olympic Games, but yeah, I think it was a good opportunity for me to continue coaching, and like with COVID and haven't like coached in a match in a while, like I was just excited for some of those opportunities, and yeah, slightly different, right? But it's been fun so far, full of adventure for sure.
Sure.
Taiba, do the facilitators get paid, and can they earn bonuses like the players?
We do earn a stipend, a salary for the season. However, we are not included in the bonuses. The players have a lot of opportunity depending on where they fall on the leaderboard. There are more bonuses. I think if you're in the top 25, it's a certain bonus. If you're in the top 10, it's a little bit more. If you are named the Defensive Player of the Year, that's an extra $5,000. And so they do have opportunity to win money. And even I think the incredible part of that is that, and we're actually in Athlete Causes Week. And so they're each playing for a cause that they support. You know, it might be inequality, it might be breast cancer, it might be Play Like a Girl. And so they're each representing a foundation. And so a percentage of the earnings that they win at the end, the company is actually matching and donating to that cause of their choice. So it's a really thought out process for bonuses and gifting to foundations.
How were the original 44 athletes selected? Tama, can you answer that one?
Yeah, I think the player executive, what's the C for?
Committee, PEC.
Committee. It's a group of 5 athletes, and I think they drove a lot of that process, along with Chris McGowan, the head of coaching. And so, you know, they watched a lot of video. They helped, I don't know, kind of like vet or screen the athletes. And so, like, I wasn't responsible for bringing one player to this league. I really just am a facilitator. But yeah, so it's like, again, back to like the whole mission, right? Is they had a big say in who played in this league, the athletes.
Taiba, you know, as a facilitator, do you work with the captains, you know, during the draft from one draft to another, or do they just do it strictly by themselves?
So draft day is a really crazy experience. I don't know if you guys have been able to watch it, and I don't know if they show you the whole picture, but as a facilitator, we do get to work with our captains. So on Monday night, as soon as the last match is played, they tally up all the points, they accumulate all the MVP points, and then, you know, late at night, they'll tell us these are the 4 captains for the week, and all of the coaches are assigned to a different color each week, each color team, and we all rotate each week. And so we will know late Monday night who we're going to be paired with. So sometime on Tuesday, we actually meet with them and say, hey, you know, what are your thoughts going into the draft? What's your strategy? Who are the players that you really like? Who are the players that maybe you're not connecting with? And then when the draft actually happens, the coaches are here at the hotel, and we're in a Zoom room. So they have a whole bunch of breakout rooms. So we're in a Zoom room and communicating with our captain, who is actually over at the gym. And when they make their pick, that pick is actually dropped into the Zoom room, the breakout room with us. And so now as each of our team members are built, they get dropped into that room and we're all having discussions. So sometimes when you're looking at them and they're kind of communicating to the side, we are actually talking to them in that room and saying, oh, okay, well, they actually just took a setter and maybe now we have to change and we have to take a setter now, or they took an opposite and that frees us up to take this. And so there's a lot of dialogue that's happening as each pick is made, just because it might affect the list that you originally went in with.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And Taibbi, you did refer to yourself as a coach, but before we switch to Brian, I just wanted to make that point. So Brian, I know you have a lot of questions for these guys.
Well, my mind is, thanks, Bob. My mind is just racing about bonus points for facilitators. Like I can come up with some pretty funny ones that you could come, you could 2,000 for this and 1,000 for the score after a timeout. Score a point after a timeout. It's your point. That's worth 1,000. Anyway, but as facilitators, Ty, let's start with you. As a facilitator, talk about the freedoms you feel as opposed to a coach, and then the restrictions that you feel. Are you feeling, I mean, I was thinking about it. I'm sure there's some sense of freedom in that position, but also some sense of restriction or limitations.
It really does vary week to week, honestly. So that freedom may come, for instance, today I woke up out of bed, I got ready for the day, and I went to practice. I didn't plan practice. I didn't, have to prepare any kind of dialogue for anybody. Like my captain has done this. This is her third week, I think. And so she's starting to feel comfortable about it. So there's that freedom of sometimes you just get to be there and you're more of emotional support. The maybe drawback of that is sometimes you have players who don't necessarily, like, they've never been in this coaching position before. And so they're not equipped to handle a lot of the changes that need to be made, or, your captain is on the floor. And so they don't see all the intricacies of the game that's going on. So they don't know, what time is it right now? Do we need to make a substitution? How is somebody playing? And so that's a little bit more difficult to kind of navigate with them. And just having those player conversations that we as facilitators might, or coaches might have at a university or national team, like, you're not playing, here's why. The captain doesn't necessarily have those conversations, or they're not prepared mentally all the time to have that conversation with somebody who's on the bench.
Thomas, same question.
Yeah, I think I'm right with Ty. I mean, partially is because Ty and I are friends, so we talk about everything. But I think the one thing that stands out is, like, to everyone on this call and people listening, like, we are very proactive people. And so as soon as you get that captain assignment, you're thinking about, like, what are we going to do? What are we going to train? What's the schedule? And you really just have to, like, calm down. And not that you're like, oh, she's going to do everything, but it's like pretty hard sometimes to kind of hold back. And for me, like I said earlier, is listen first. And, like, sometimes you just want to, like, hit them, like, this is what I thought about, this is what we're going to do, this is how I'm going to do this is how I want to play tactically, this is what we should do. And it's not that you hold back the information, but, like, waiting for that conversation to happen, which is going to be a little more fluid than what, we've all experienced before.
Let's stay with you right now and talk to me about what you feel, how this will help USA team, and and you played, I mean, both of you have played internationally, both of you have great experiences throughout the world. What is the benefit of this, and then what is the drawback of not being able to play against the strongest international players? So Tom,
I think there's just so many positives in terms of more people watching the sport in our country, and then also outside. And bringing in a couple foreign players and their little communities, actually they're not little, large communities, to watch the game. And, I've already gotten like messages from agents and people. They're like, how can we play in the league? And so it's definitely, the word's getting out there. And I think like calls like this, just to explain what's actually happening, are huge, because then you also get the next message, what are you guys doing? So getting the word out there for sure. And then like just seeing the kids seeing professional volleyball and like, okay, so if I like volleyball a lot, I'm pretty good, I can play here. And then there might be some opportunities, and then a couple girls from the league or athletes, like they just don't really fit with that overseas life. And so again, that there's an opportunity to play, and some even have jobs still. I don't know if that's like super public knowledge, but there are some athletes here that actually still have their jobs. So they've been able to either work remotely or whatever, figure out their schedule. So that's pretty cool. And then for USA Volleyball, just having like some of the best in the country play, and for sure some of the outside leagues are better, but at the same time, like we have so many good players in our country. And so just seeing like the different players come together, like that level, I think for how much actual training we've had is pretty good. And so, seeing the little things from the college game to just AU, I think it's going to be great for the sport. And then, yeah, like you said, there's some other leagues out there, and some of our top national team players will probably play over there first. But at the end of the day, like you never know. There's so many different reasons why people play in general at the professional level. So I think the more that we can like make this enticing or educate people, it's just going to help. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Ty, you as an athlete, not as a facilitator right now, but as an athlete, and you've played in so many countries, how do you advise, maybe not advise, but what do you see the benefits and then maybe the restrictions of not being able to play overseas or not playing overseas? And I understand COVID, so.
Yeah, I think the beauty of playing overseas is that you actually get to learn new tendencies, you get to pick up different styles of play and maybe add it to your tool bag. You're just exposed to so much more. But I think the bigger we can make this league, the more exposure that we get, we can now bring those people from overseas into our own game and make this league even stronger. Like you said, I think, again, there is a lot of emphasis on, we have mothers here. And I think that's a big thing as well in sport. It's, once you have a baby, your career is kind of over, and it's a struggle. And so this creates an opportunity where I can continue to play. I can have my family here with me. I can have, my kids here with me. I have my support. And so I think it creates a new opportunity for women to continue their career even further than what it was before. It's, once you have your kid, you may not be enticed by that overseas life, but once you bring it back home, there's more opportunity.
That's great that you brought up about women and families. I think that's a great part. I didn't even think of that. Ruth, I know we cut off your time.
Oh, hey, what's new? You guys do this every week. And Taiba,
I knew she'd have to complain a little bit.
hey,
That's especially why I'm doing this for a woman, Ruth.
hey, listen,
Yeah.
when you said the great men and intelligent men, I was thinking, okay, where do I fit in that category?
Yeah, but
Okay.
you're a facilitator, Ruth. You're a facilitator.
Hey, oh yeah, that's right. Okay, here we go. 174,000 viewers for the first game. Dogs, cats, no fans in the facility. Are you guys the charity for some of the players? That's what you need to be, have your own charity. Okay, trading cards, substitutions, fans. How do I become another fan? I'm already a volunteer. I'm following 2 players. All right, so now can you just briefly, Thomas, say, how do I become another fan? Do I have to pay money? Where do I go to do that?
Yeah, I think you can go online and become like an unlimited fan or member.
Okay.
And
Join the Unlimited Club.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's different memberships. But yeah, I think that's a big deal for some, because you actually get to drop into our draft room,
Yes.
and then you get to vote on MVPs. So that's just another opportunity
Okay,
follow
so
the girls and
Taiba,
get some insights.
so are you wrapping up your social media so that you could be an MVP even though we won't announce it? Is that what you're doing?
Look, I've been trying to slide my name in there each week. It hasn't come by yet, but I'm trying.
You can
I was
get
warming up my arm in
credit.
practice today since the girls couldn't hit.
Okay, so the last part, trading cards. The first time, okay, Major League Volleyball was in 78, 79 in that time, and 87, the pro co-ed. What about trading cards? We haven't
do
had
have
trading
them.
cards for women in a long time.
They do
Right.
have them. They actually have Topps is doing a limited release
Uh-huh.
series where you can go and purchase trading cards for any of the players right now. And I don't think it's available all year long, but I think for a few of the weeks, the last few weeks, you can go and purchase.
Oh,
So
great.
both you two are trendsetters. You're doing this for the first time. It's only 5 weeks long. People love it. It's obvious because the average viewer has been 75,000 viewers, and just even on some of the interviews. And I just think it's just absolutely wonderful. And I know, Mick, you've been chatting to me. I know you have one more question. So Mick, you
Excellent.
go ahead.
So ladies, I've been thinking about this, and of course, I was a setter like Bob and Brian a little bit, and we always are trying to, and Ruth, sorry, for sure. But
I was the
Ruth is
only one that
actually the
wasn't a
highest level
setter.
of our setting.
Ruth was a big hitter also, and she coached on the floor, so she's got all of the stuff. But I'm thinking, so maybe I don't like my captain. If I don't set my captain, she doesn't get enough points. She can't be captain next week. Do you get any of that reality TV stuff going on in the league at all?
It's tricky. It does actually. So I jokingly tell people it's like Survivor Island, but it's volleyball style. So there's different scenarios where you could totally ice the player out. If you're close to each other on the leaderboard, you can say, if it's a setter, for instance, and you're drafted as a captain, I'm going to draft the next best setter to be my backup, and that way she can't get some of those points. Or maybe you have maybe there's an opportunity where you want everyone to play on your team, but you've got someone who's on a leaderboard. Well, if you take that person out, now you're messing with their points. So there's very much a polarity. There's opposite sides of it where you can kind of get iced out, or you can be on a team where everyone plays and everyone has equal time, but you diminish a strong player's leaderboard capability.
Well, you could have a reality show and get a lot of viewers. We could have. You want to get the people, tuning in. Here we go.
Well, and think about this.
Spin-off, right? When you're done with the league, then you go and talk about that.
And if you get the fans involved, where they actually can vote, or they can be general managers and make suggestions for how you could manipulate the situation, this could turn into a big time wrestling. Maybe you don't know what's going to happen because
but there are no, and you know what, it can happen without the fans because there technically aren't any rules for the players on how they vote for MVP. You just select your 3 favorite players. You can vote for yourself. You can be on the bench and vote for yourself. So there is still potential for that same drama.
Well, that's really wonderful. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for being on. I'm afraid we've run out of time. For our fans and viewers, next week we hope to have 2 of the top beach facilitators or coaches on to talk to us about the collegiate beach season and what that's looking like for the national championship. But this has been quite informative. I'm really glad we did this. Thanks to both of you for coming on. You've been great guests and really helped us understand what's happening. So back to you, Ruth.
Okay, book your Master Coaches custom virtual clinic today by heading over to our Instagram. Click on the bio and click on virtual clinic link. If you're wanting a fantastic one-day clinic near Abilene, Texas, join us on June 5th by registering at AbileneYSA.org. That's Abilene Youth Sports Authority. If you'd like to be on our guest list, you can go over to our Buzz Reaction and get on our show. Go to our Instagram, click on Want to be a guest, and you'll not only get our updates, but you'll also be on our guest. Follow us on Facebook at Volleyball Master Coaches, Instagram and Twitter, VB Master Coaches. A special shout out to our partners, SNA Sports and Baden Sports, and thanks to our content providers, NFHS, JVA, Coaches Insider, and AVCA. Stay on Facebook Live after John closes our show today and join our Master Coaches Buzz Reaction. Now let's head to John, our Buzz and Buzz Reaction digital partner, Dr. John Foreman.
Thanks, Ruth. Yeah, coming up on the podcast, a good friend and not too long ago guest, Ruben Wallachine, who's coaching in Hungary, was on with me, and we just had a coaching talk between the two of us as he was getting ready to play first in the Hungarian Cup final, and then also getting ready to start the playoffs over there. So that was a fun talk, and at least the first part of that will drop on Sunday. There might be a part two. We'll see. So with that, we'll wrap it up and head on to the Buzz Reaction, and we can say goodbye to the ladies.
All right.
Bye, you
Thanks,
too.
thanks very much.
Thank you.
Taiba,
Nice to
thank you.
talk to you.
guys.
Nice to talk to you.
Appreciate
Bye,
it.
Ty. Talk to you
Thanks,
soon.
see ya.
Yay for the
Bye.
women. All right, welcome to our Buzz Reaction. And today we will have a guest join us the last 15 minutes as part of our Want to Be a Guest program, which we will introduce them later in the show. Now let's hear from our master coaches as they continue their conversation about today's Buzz Show discussion. And we're going to Bob first because he has the highest winning record of all four of us.
There you go.
Well, it's interesting here because, as Mick and probably Brian and Ruth have done, I played as a player coach, my first job out of college. And I'll tell you, that's pretty tough to do. And I remember finally Mario Trebich walking into the gym, one time and, told us he was a first division player in Russia. Wanted a job. And I said, hey, listen, I got a job for you. You can coach us. So I could just play. All right. I mean, it's really hard. These captains must be having a tough time trying to do all this stuff that a coach would do. But I really enjoyed hearing a little bit more in depth about this league. It's pretty interesting. And, if you look at pro athletics right now, this is kind of going the direction of pro athletics in general. I mean, the football coach in the NFL, he's not really the one driving the ship. He's basically a facilitator. All right. Maybe a little bit more than what we were talking about today, but I think that might be true in all the pro teams. It's a guy that's making $24 million a year that's really driving the ship.
Those of you that went to the Tampa Final Four, I think might have been 2013, something like that. There was an announcement at the Final Four that there would be a new pro league, and it was made by a young guy who was involved in Hollywood with the show, where they would find singing stars and bring them on, and he was going to do a reality volleyball league. And at that time we had, and it might have been earlier, it might have been around 2008 when we had that real drop in the economy here in the United States. And that pro league never got off the ground, but the idea was to film the players in practice and behind the scenes and getting ready for matches. And it was really a reality show featuring women's volleyball. And that was the concept. And it was a heck of a concept because everybody in television was excited about these reality shows where you find talent, or you had facilitators like the judges that would go out and find the talent, and then people would actually vote on who was the best talent. And they were going to do this with volleyball, and I thought this was an exposure thing that would really get television involved. And once you get television involved, all kinds of different things happen. So I was pretty excited about that. It never came to fruition. Lee Steinberg was involved, the famous agent, and a lot of people were in the background. This looks like a takeoff on that has a great chance of happening. So I don't know what you guys thought about that, but I'm glad we did the show. I think it opened my eyes, and the women were very not coy about saying, yeah, there could be all kinds of finagling here because they didn't say that there's a $50,000 payment at the end for the top player, but you could see a lot of people doing a lot of different things to get that $50,000 or an additional $5,000. including facilitators. If they could make bonuses, what do you think they would be doing? They'd figure out how to communicate a lot better, I think. So it's kind of interesting to me.
Well, I watched the whole draft and I wanted to know more about it. And I thought it was interesting that Dela Cruz took one of the players that spoke Spanish, and the color analyst in play-by-play said, hey, I bet you she can talk Spanish to that person that's standing next to her and knowing exactly what balls, because I mean, Dela Cruz is a fun person to watch, but what I was going to say is, I think it's easy to turn in a lineup when you're a player coach. I think it's pretty simple, because if you're one of the better players, it was easy to do it, because I know I played with my college players, which was interesting. And then you could mix some high school players in there. They couldn't practice in Texas, but they could play. So I mean, hey, Mary Jo was a great player coach too. And, I played, she loved making all the, hey, it's like one last thing, and then I'll let Brian talk, is Coach Tom Landry was my first role model in 1973 when I was at University of Houston. And I finally went into business with him and his son for the Nike World Masters games. And we were sitting signing prepaid phone cards. And he would say, okay, coach, how many more cards do I need to sign? He autographed every single card. No one autographed for him. I said, coach, could you tell me one thing? When was the most fun time you ever had in your coaching career? He says, when I was player coach for New York, because you could make the immediate changes right then on the field without having to go back, call a timeout, or try to do something else. But anyhow, Brian.
Well, I think Tom Brady does that right now, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He kind of runs the offense, and the influences before game, before the, practice time, and then on the actual plays, changing things all the time. Anyway, so I think I thought they were both very, very good guests. They were great to interview, both of them. They were had all kinds of open ideas and articulate, and they were very, very good. I think it's very hard for these people who are inexperienced as coaches. They're players, they're not coaches, to coach the team. It's hard to see, like Thomas said, you can't see, the perspective from outside. You can't see it all, especially for them, because they're so new at it. And then as a coach, and I know all of us feel this, there's immediate responses that we have. If we're lucky and we're good enough, we have to make adjustments on the fly and communicate it so quickly to players. And we work on that communication all year, either individually or a tactical change that we feel we need to make. And it has to be done like right now. It has to be done quick words right now. And they're biting their tongues a little bit, waiting for their opportunity to say those things. And I think it can detract. I think it's really hard on the facilitator. Toma mentioned that a little bit about, she's got to bite her tongue, or she's got to wait her turn. She's got to be patient. And I think that takes away from some positive individual or collective adjustments. That's all.
I'd reinforce what Ruth said too. When I was playing open ball and coaching a team, didn't take me a second to make a sub or to turn in a lineup, because I wanted to win. Mm-hmm. And I felt, you don't know what you don't know, right? So you know what you think you know, and you go with that. And when you're a player and you're in charge, you just make the change. And if the person gives you rolls their eyes at you or something, you're out of there.
That's right. You're not playing.
We're out here to win. We're not. So it takes an extra loop out of the whole deal. And player coaches sometimes are really effective. On the other hand, Tama did make a serious point that when you're in the middle of it, you can't step back and see the whole picture all the time. And so there are some things that are advantageous of having a person on the outside having input when you see those things. So it was pretty good. If we were doing a coaching class, wouldn't that have been a good session for a coaching class?
Oh, the dynamics. But you know what I was going to say too? after watching the draft, I would not have want to been the last 10 players picked.
Oh, they
Because-
lined them up on the screen. You don't want to be the last kid picked. You know, we all went through that. We survived, and we don't think bad about ourselves. I heard
The
this-
NBA All-Stars didn't like it too much. When they
Yeah,
were the
yeah,
last
the
guy
NBA
picked.
All-Stars didn't like being the last guy picked either. Tough luck.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, I think they'll get over it. It's not that big a deal. you
no,
know?
but
I
you know,
want
it's,
to. I want to tell you guys that you all player coached. I remember the last time I ever scrimmaged at Long Beach State. This was why, and it was so long ago. I'm playing right back. I'm the setter on the B team, and they're working the ice side, and they set a ball outside, and I'm looking at the coverage to see if their team, because I'm coaching. I'm thinking, are they in coverage position there? And Tara Cross zoomed the ball right past my head, and I didn't even see it coming. And I said, okay, I'm not going on the court anymore. I can't do both. I'm walking over there and sitting where I should be. You know, I'm lucky it wasn't 2 inches closer.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful for people that really didn't know anything about volleyball, but a lot of those kids are on social media for
Yeah.
them. But I've also seen the followers that Del Cruz has. I mean, the Brazilian also had, but Del Cruz has unbelievable. I went on her social media. Holy cow, they've been voting like crazy for her.
Yeah.
But also she's an excellent player.
So I got an idea. So you guys, we need to get our show. We need to have these athletes promote our show to all of these followers. So we'll tell them how many votes we need to get them for Team A to promote our show, so that we can get our show to all these followers, because we're the only volleyball news show out there. We're
There
the
you
only
go.
one reporting on things that are new and different and happening, and getting people on. Maybe we should be part of the league. What do you think?
Now
yeah.
that's a great idea.
I think we should produce the reality show for them.
Oh, we could. That would be pretty fun. We've
It's
been-
just
gonna-
really
we've been
interesting
through it for
how
enough years, right?
innovative this whole thing is. It's really innovative.
Oh, yeah. But I love it that you're you're the number one setter, and you've got to get the bonus for setter. So you're number one, and you pick number 2 setter to play on your team. I thought that was pretty good. That's going to go over very well.
Oh, that's not going to go over well in the locker room at all.
No.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to start the reality show.
Yeah,
you
there we go. I want that as the lead in. I want to interview all those people surrounding that on the reality show. Like, what did you think of that? You know?
That came from Taiba. She was all
Yeah.
over. She talked me through that. So
Well.
that was pretty good. I like that.
Actually,
Okay,
that's
so-
what her master's degree was in. And, you know, psychology, math, counseling. And she, oh my God, I'm sure she's sitting there trying to figure out, okay, what is
Okay,
this?
we
gonna
got a
bring?
couple more minutes here.
Okay, let's
So
get
one
our
of you guys
guest.
could go. I don't want to go. I always end up.
Well, why don't you bring in our guest?
Oh, are you ready?
Well, she's been sitting here waiting.
Okay, well, all right, let's give her a formal entry. Let's begin our guest today to join in our new format, which allows our guest to be on the Buzz Reaction Show for 10 minutes after Master Coaches, but she's getting a couple extra minutes, and she's by herself.
Whoa.
Each guest has a chance to ask our Master Coaches a question that they have always wanted to ask, or might have been afraid to ask, and I know she's never been afraid to ask, or just wanted an opinion on a topic or situation. So today, our guest is a former collegiate player at Alabama State under Penny Lucas White, and presently a club coach at Slam in Dallas, Texas, and has been playing since she was 13 years old and works full-time as a recruiter for aerospace and defense. Welcome, Scout Wonsang.
Hello. It's nice to see everyone.
Hey, Scout.
Hi, Scout. How are you?
All right.
I'm
Before-
good.
Before we get started, we'd love to hear your thoughts on our Master Coaches Weekly Buzz Show and how our information is assisting coaches at every level, even parents, players, and fans. All right. Scout.
Yeah. So to start off, I think the best part of the show is the back and forth that happens,
Oh.
you know, those fun little tangents that, go on. I think those are where the nuggets of gold come from. And I think that just that dialogue and individuals coming in and watching the show, they learn so much from that. And it's a fun part of the shows too. But just a little background, I've worked with Ruth for a very long time. I first met you in 7th grade, I think. So it's been a very long time. I've had the opportunity to work with her. And so, just through the experience of watching the sport change and I mean, gosh, like y'all been saying, it's the most innovative time for the sport right now. I kind of wanted to talk about the scoring system. I think y'all were talking about that a little bit before and the dynamics of everything. But a question is, I wanted to see, do you think that this scoring system and how they're running it is going to bleed into any of the club sports in the area?
Look at Mick. Is that your first question?
Yeah, that's my first question. Here, I'll follow up with my other questions later.
Okay, so did you see Mick with his head?
No, I can only see one person at a time. Oh, here we go. Now, Mick, I see you.
Okay, Mick, you go first.
Well, that's one of the things that's somewhat bothersome to me, is that we start playing around with the game like this, and these kinds of things actually could move into the game in some form. And substitutions, we didn't get to talk to them about, but think about substitutions in the league, and you lose points if you sub, but if you could gain 30 points by winning, you might sub somebody out and they lose points. Well, and scoring, different ways of scoring, if those get into the parts of the game because they're part of a reality culture, it changes our game immensely, or could change our game immensely. And I think we have the best game in the world. And there are a couple of alterations that each of us would like to make suggestions about. Of course, I want to reduce substitutions. Other people want to make unlimited substitutions. Some people want to not rotate. You could see all these kinds of things come up. And the international game, they do experiment with a lot of these things. They were even looking at 11-point games and playing 4 out of 7 to shorten the games and have more winning. And really what they wanted is more time for having time to sell products in between the games. They had more
Yeah.
and they could sell advertising. And so, John, you could put that in your class.
Well, I can actually insert something in there, because the scoring system is to a limited degree going global already.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the guys that I had on one of the very early coaching conversations, his name's Ben Raymond. He's a researcher down in Tasmania. He actually created an app that can be used, presumably with data volley files, that calculates the scoring throughout a league based on the AU system. And Mark Lebedew has used it on the Plus Liga. And I think it was coming down to the most recent round as to who was going to end up as top scorer in that league. So it's happening.
Wow.
Okay, Brian,
I have several comments. I have several comments, and I don't want to be too serious about this. First, I do, for the last 3 seasons, I've done some games on ESPN, and I refuse to say at the beginning of the match, where 3 out of 5 sets were to 25 points, and the 5th game is to 15 points. I think if you don't, but most announcers say that because nobody understands the game. So we don't, please, let's not do nobody understands it to begin with. Let's not ruin our audience or lose our audience.
Bob, get the defibrillators.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to need it. Second is, the other thing is it's such a foreign game to begin with because we're not used to set play. Football, basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer. It's not, you have to win a set and you have to win 3 sets. And the score becomes 0-0 after the completion of a set. And it's a very unusual thing because we're so used to big leads and momentum switches and all that. And you have an automatic momentum switch because you're back to 0-0 in the next set. It's a very hard game for Americans to understand to begin with. To make it more complicated is just, oh my God, we'll lose the audience we have. I think the game is fine. Let's try to figure out the game we have now.
But
Okay,
Brian,
let's go to Bob. Wait, we got to hear Bob first.
Well, I actually am enjoying listening to these guys. I don't want to be the old fogey. I think it's kind of neat that they're doing something different, but I am concerned that it gets so complicated and convoluted that it's going to detract from the game of volleyball. And it's just like, one of the problems I always complain about is there's 5 different rules. There's the junior rule, there's the women's rules, there's the FIVB rules, there's the USA volleyball. I wish we would just play one set of rules. Well, this complicates it again.
Okay.
But
you think about what networks are thinking about and advertisers. If you get 177,000 followers or 250,000 they had the opening night, those are numbers, and reality show people are all about numbers. You look at numbers, we'll get aced out with something simple. The reality people are going to win that game. We're the purists, and we want to keep the game the way it is and just get better at it. That's
Okay, I got a question.
Your question.
I got a question.
When powerful, we got more to that too.
Okay, here it is. Answer: trend or fad? The scoring is Mick. Is this a trend or a fad?
I'm afraid it's a trend. I wish it were a fad.
Okay, Brian.
Fad.
Bob.
I think it's a trend.
John.
Ooh. Fad.
Okay, Scout.
You got it.
Fad.
Scout.
I think I would say fad, because I think the scoring system, like how they set up everything there, reminds me of we called it the Stanford game, but where you'd have all of your girls play together as doubles, and then you'd look at their largest score, and then that would be the person who was most likely working best with the team and had the best communication skills. And I think it's a good learning game too for understanding what a big point consists of, right? Because as coaches, we break down a lot of those little games and try and build it up to get that one big point. But I would say it's more of a fad, just because it parallels those games so much.
Okay, Scout, you better hurry up and get in your next question.
Sorry. Yeah.
I want to say one more thing. Baseball has done pretty well in this country. And in over 100 years, they've made one change. And the one change they've made is the DH. And they haven't had any other change in over 100 years. So we just better be, and I don't see any really minor changes in the other sports too.
What about putting the guy at second base in the 10th inning?
Yeah, that's good. Well, that isn't cleared yet.
Okay, Scout, we've got time for one more question.
Oh my gosh. Going through this conversation, we've just gone through a lot. Yeah, sorry, I am still caught up on the point system. But no, I just think, overall, how do you think it's going to grow, just volleyball in general, on an international basis as well as nationally? Because from what I've seen, it's gotten a lot more popular in Texas. But how do you think it's going to go to those countries that aren't as popular with volleyball right now? Where do you see that going to?
Well, I hope they don't disappear like you did.
No. Oh.
Okay, go ahead. One of you guys.
Well, I think right now in the United States, volleyball is the fastest growing sport for both men and women. I think that's going to, happen throughout the world. It's a very popular game. It's a very social game. I think it's going to continue to grow.
Well, my feeling is that if the United States would get a league of any kind, our game, especially in the women, is built on participation. Overseas, it's built on elite athletes. You don't have everybody in the country overseas playing the sport. You have the most elite athletes being trained at a young age and representing the sport at a high level. Very, very few countries have the amount of play that we do. Russia, China, they have a lot of people playing, but a lot of countries don't play as much. And we have everybody playing. I mean, every young girl wants to put on her uniform, fix her hair, and be in a popcorn festival, in a convention center. And no other sport has that kind of appeal right now.
Okay.
I have some concerns about the sport. In some countries, it's even bigger than it's ever been, but in most countries, it's not. And I think that we've made a lot of missteps. The USA, as little as I follow, didn't pay their fair share in terms of keeping the game alive financially in other countries. Japan was carrying the bill for many, many years for international volleyball. And I would have liked to have seen the United States play a bigger role to promote it worldwide, because some countries like Cuba, Brazil, Chile, Japan, Korea are not as big as they were. So that concerns me. And in our game here, we need to be careful. It's a golden goose, but we can't be greedy about it. I think that clubs, I owned a club for over 30 years, and it was a good club. But from when I started to when I ended, the purpose of club volleyball changed, and the ownership has gotten too greedy. And they don't look at the big picture of the sport. They only look at their own making, and the relationship between high school and club is not good, and it's the club's fault. And the clubs need to understand that's where they get their people. And I just think that I'm concerned about it a lot. Even despite that, like Bob says, you can make a case that we're the biggest growing sport. I just would, and a little caution here, we need to think of the game as a whole.
Bob, we got 1 minute.
I was serious, more serious than I've ever been.
I know, I saw that. Okay,
I
Bob.
did it.
Well, yeah, Brian, that's unusual for you. You usually
I'm
bring
worried
up
about
some jokes
myself.
here.
I'm worried.
So I was actually paying attention, because I think you bring up some good points. I think we do have to look at the bigger picture, not just how many people are participating or how good a certain level is. We got to be making sure that the game is being preserved.
Yeah. If it's good for the game, it's good for us. That's how I feel. If
Okay.
anything is good for the game, it's good for each one of us.
Okay, so Scout, we have one last thing for you.
Yes.
Would you please share with our viewers on why we should all be lifelong learners?
Oh, it's the best way to be. That's how you develop and grow constantly. I mean, think about it. If you stayed stagnant or same forever, how bored would you be your entire life? I think the fun part of life is the dynamicness that comes with growing and learning. So,
And why are you still in coaching, even though you've got a good paying job?
I might be a volleyball addict. I don't know. But it's the giving back, the growth, the learning moments that you see within the girls. And even between your teammates, if you play in an adult league or a team, just those little adjustments, learning, growing together. It's such a great environment. It's a great environment. It's a positive environment, and you always learn, you always grow. And those light bulb moments you see in players are the best thing ever.
Okay.
Speaking for the four of us, I'll speak for all four of us. If you ever see us out and about in any of these tournaments or wherever, please come up and say, I got another question for you.
Okay. Well, our time is up, and thanks to Scout for joining us on today's Buzz Reaction. And we want to wish you great success as you move safely into your competitive club. Al, we are so excited that all coaches still want to be life learners.
Excellent. Thank y'all for having me. Y'all have a good day.
All right, Scout.
For those viewers that want to be on the Buzz Reaction guest list, jump over to VB Master Coaches Instagram, go to the bio and click on the sign up to be a guest. For those coaches that are interested in our services, go to our Instagram account, click on the link in our bio and click on want to know more about Master Coaching Consulting Services. Be sure to tell your friends about our weekly Buzz news show. And thanks for joining us today, and see you next week on the Buzz.